I want to, yeah.
Joe, I think it's working. It says
Double
it's
encryption. Okay, it says YouTube. Go ahead, go.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Zoning Commission of the City of Danbury on June 11, 2024. Let the record show our 7 o'clock meeting will begin with a roll call at 7:05. Commissioner Bennett.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Botello.
Present.
Commissioner Cabrera. Absent. Commissioner James.
Present.
Commissioner Jowdy.
Here.
Commissioner Nazario. Commissioner Nijay.
Here.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Here.
Commissioner Harrison is absent tonight. Commissioner Simone.
Present.
Commissioner Simone, stay there for a second. Don't go. Commissioner Villacrest.
Present.
And I'm Chairman Haddad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 regular members and 2 alternates. Commissioner Simone, I'm going to seat you tonight for Commissioner Cabrera.
But he has to turn his camera on and leave
You're
it
going to have
on.
to turn your camera on. Are you able to do that?
Totally forgot. Yep, you do it.
Beautiful. Looking good. Looking good. Okay, so you're sitting in for Commissioner Cabrera tonight.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Very important. The next regular meeting is scheduled for June 25th, 2024. Tonight, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to do it in honor and in memory of a good friend of the city of Danbury, Bernie Gallo, who passed away this morning. Bernie's the chairman of the Environmental Impact Commission. Bernie was a very good friend of mine, although one generation above, the generation of my father. It didn't matter. Bernie was a cool guy and he got along with everybody. I love Bernie and I love Marge and his family. I'm going to miss him. I can go on for quite a while about him. I happen to believe that we should hear it, or those should hear it that don't know, from the family. So they will hear it from the family when they see readings in the paper and details like that. So if we can all stand. And we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to let Commissioner Jowdy lead this. He was also good friends of Mr. Gallo. I pledge
allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America
and
and to the republic
for which
it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
with liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for all.
Bernie, thank you for the thousands of hours that you've given free to the city of Danbury.
Hold on 1 second. There's a
Sure.
revive coming back through my speaker. Anybody else have it?
No.
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 Just-
No, try turning your mic off and see if you're getting it back to you. How about now? Shake your head up and down. Is it working?
well, same.
Same. Just might be your feed.
Commissioner, we would just like to add one thing about Bernie is that 58 years ago, I was his paper boy.
Oh,
And that's how long our friendship has been.
oh yeah.
So I've known him that long. He's such a great guy. Never,
Great guy.
always
Great
had a
guy.
good thing to say. He was a great guy.
Commissioner Jowdy and I, we had spent a lot of hours with Bernie and a ton of functions over the years.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
On the town committee, and he's just he just did a lot of stuff, but he was a cool guy. Funny thing about Bernie, again, please forgive me, everyone. One more thing.
Go.
You know, whenever you bump into people, everybody goes, "Hey, how you doing?" or "Hey, how are you?" or whatever. It was really funny, but I got the impression every time Bernie, I would see him, we couldn't talk. He needed to know how I was, and he meant it. It wasn't just, "Hey, how you doing?" Always asking about my mother and my father. And then we can get into conversation.
Right.
He was just sincere,
Bernie.
just good guy.
Yeah, he was.
Rest in peace.
Yes.
Commission members, everybody received the minutes of May 28, 2024. It's all been received. It's all been public record. I'd like to see a hand someone to make a motion to accept the minutes of May 28, 2024. Motion by Commissioner Botello, second by Commissioner Nijay. Any discussion? Any additions, deletions, modifications? comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Minutes unanimously accepted. Instructions for tonight's meeting. This meeting of the Danbury Zoning Commission is being held on Zoom as a virtual meeting. Even though this meeting is a virtual meeting, members of the public and interested parties continue to have the opportunity to participate in the meeting in a couple of different ways. You can participate via Zoom and see the audio and video, or you can call in by phone and participate via audio only. Please be aware that we may have to mute your microphone or telephone to avoid an echo or some other background noise. This is also being streamed live via YouTube. Instructions on how to participate in the meeting appear on the City of Danbury website, and all of the documents and materials that apply to the matters to be discussed during this meeting, including the agenda, are also available on the City of Danbury website. As always, if you have any questions, please contact the City of Danbury Planning and Zoning Department. As a reminder, the entire meeting will be posted on and can be seen on the City of Danbury website. We will follow the posted agenda as per standard practice. If prior to the meeting, any questions or comments on agenda items are submitted via email to Jennifer Eminger, those comments will be read during the appropriate portion of the meeting. Finally, please remember that technology glitches sometimes do occur. Please be patient if that happens. The legal notice for this evening. Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Commission of the City of Danbury will hold public hearings commencing at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, June 11, 2024, and a web-based meeting hosted on Zoom to consider the following matters. Petition of Robert D. Oliveria, Joes Hill Road, B13004, for change of zone from RA80 and RA40 to RA40. Next petition is a petition of Attorney Neil Marcus for O'Connor Management, LLC, to add Section 6A2A6 to the zoning regulations, in parentheses, add business or professional office for delivery of rental and or leased automobiles and trucks. Copies of these applications are on file in the town clerk's office and the planning and zoning offices for public inspection. Parties and interests and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard at this time. Agenda to be posted will include instructions on how to access the Zoom meeting and application materials, and view the meeting in real time on YouTube. Theodore J. Haddad, Jr., Chairman. Posted on the city website and town clerk's office on May 29th, 2024. Published in the News Times on May 31st, 2024, and June 7th, 2024, purchase order 2024-8. Additionally, the agenda was filed in the town clerk's office on June 6, 2024 at 3:45 p.m. That, and that. Okay. The first petition this evening is a petition of Robert D. Oliveria, Joes Hill Road, B13004, for change of zone from RA80 and RA40 to RA40. Somebody just went to change the screen on us here. Everybody's screen go out?
Nope.
My screen.
My screen went out and now I can
Joanne-
see the YouTube.
Joanne started screen sharing. I think that's what happened.
Joanne, you started screen sharing. Yes, must be. There you go. We're back. Okay. Let me read, first of all, the Planning Commission recommendation dated June 6, 2024. It's a Theodore J. Haddad, Jr., Chairman, Danbury Zoning Commission, from Arnold E. Finaldi, Jr., Chairman, Danbury Planning Commission, regarding 8-3A referral petition of Robert D. Oliveria, Joes Hill Road. At the web-based Zoom meeting held on June 5th, 2024, the City of Danbury Planning Commission voted to give the above referenced petition a positive recommendation for the following reasons, and there's three of them. The first one is the proposed rezoning is consistent with the Plan of Conservation Development, FLUM, F-L-U-M, as this would extend the existing RA40 district and result in the development of single-family homes on medium to large lots. Number two, this also complies with the specific zone change criteria listed in Section 10I3 of the zoning regulations, since the permitted uses in the RA40 zone is the same as what is permitted in the RA80 zone. Number three, this rezoning will not detrimentally impact the health, safety, and welfare of the public. The motion to give this a positive recommendation was made by Mr. Sylvain, seconded by Mr. Haas, and passed unanimously by voice vote with 5 ayes for Mr. Chiocho, Mr. Haas, Mr. Hofstadter, Mr. Sylvain, and Chairman Finaldi. Let me read. No, I'm not going to read. I am going to give it to, at this point, let me get my papers in order. Ms. Eminger, would you like to go over the staff report with us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Jennifer Eminger, Acting Planning Director. So you have my staff report dated May 30th, 2024. As Chairman Haddad had read in the legal notice, this is a petition to rezone properties on Joe's Hill Road from RA 80/RA 40 to strictly RA 40. The property is bisected again by both zones, and you can see that in that little map that I attached to the staff report. As you can see, a majority of the parcel, and this is a vacant parcel, is zoned RA 80 with a small portion that's zoned RA 40. Again, petitioners looking to move that district, the RA 40 district line, to the west, closer to Mariana Farm Drive. The area requested to be rezoned per the petition and the zone change map totals 2.65 acres, which includes a little over 8,700 square feet of right-of-way within Joe's Hill Road. And this is consistent with section 3B3, which requires that. Parcels to the north and south are partially, again, in the RA 80 and RA 40 district. Parcels to the west are zoned RA 80, and then to the east, as you head down the hill towards Mill Plain, zoned RA 40. And Farrington Woods is to the south. So the rezoning would allow changes in use on the lot in to any use allowed in the RA 40 district for purposes of residential density. A rezoning to RA 40 would allow, if the applicant chooses to subdivide, 3 dwelling units compared to 1 dwelling unit under the current RA 40/RA 80/40 designation. Again, if a subdivision was contemplated, the portion of the lot in the RA 40 would not be allowed, would not count towards a density calculation. Again, this is if the applicant chooses not, if a zone change doesn't move forward, they're only allowed to count the density within that district. Grading and other improvements required for lot development could further reduce any net increase. Based off of information provided in the petition, they've expressed that they're only looking to do what we call a first cut. They're entitled to, the lot hasn't changed since 1953, so they're entitled to what we call a first division of property. That is their intent, but by zoning, they would be, I believe, entitled to those 3 lots. You have the staff report from the Planning Commission with respect to compliance with the POCD. The zone change complies with the additional zone change criteria, which I've outlined in the staff report. Staff has no objection to the zone change, as it meets the meets the criteria in 10I3, as well as its consistency with the POCD. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions of Ms. Eminger at this time? Thank you, Ms. Eminger. Let me just grab this real quick so I can at least read it into the record. Attached to the petition is attachment A. I'll just go over it quickly. I'm sure Attorney Marcus was going to anyway. State briefly why this petition should be granted. The applicant intends to create 2 building lots on the current parcel, which has an area of 2.96 acres. The existing property as currently zoned splits the parcel unevenly with the greater portion of the RA 80 zone. The R40 portion does not have the minimum lot area of 40,000 square feet as required for the R40 zone. We're requesting the zone line to be moved to the west to follow the western property line. This would put the entire parcel in one zone and allow for the responsible development of single family dwellings. Let's see, Attorney Marcus, anyone who should speak in favor of this petition?
That's not my petition.
Oh,
It's Nick Yushek. Where is he?
oh, I'm
Dixie.
sorry.
There he is.
I knew Nick was there for a reason.
Attorney Marcus, I thought you had the whole shooting match tonight.
No, I'm going to share it. I like Nick. He's good.
Good. We're gonna get
Thank
a
you.
little break then. Sir, I'm very sorry. I apologize. So those wishing to speak in favor, just state your name and address, please.
Okay, for the record, my name is Nick Yuschak, Yuschak. I'm with CCA LLC at 40 Old New Milford Road in Brookfield, and I'm a registered landscape architect. I'm representing the applicant, the petitioner, Robert D. Oliveira. And basically, I would have walked through the same thing, the staff report and the attachment A, everything was spelled out in great detail, and I have nothing else to add. Other than I would like to just express my sincere condolences concerning Bernie Gallo. The short time I worked with him, I had a lot of respect for him, and I will miss him.
Thank
And
you very much. Thank you for those kind words. And yes, we do get lucky in Danbury with these tremendous staff reports. So yes, there's everything is in here, and she did do a great job on that. Commission members, are there any questions of Mr. Yushak? Commission members? No, not right now. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Mr. Yushak, anything else before we close you up? Anything you might have forgotten or anything you want to add?
no, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that covers it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Absolutely. Ms. Eminger, do you want to sum up anything? Any other further comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commission members, last chance for questions of staff. I don't see any hands. I don't hear any voices. So with that, I'd look for a motion to close this public hearing. Any commissioner member want to make that motion?
I'll make it.
Motion made by Commissioner Bennett to close the public hearing, second by Commissioner James. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. This public hearing is closed.
Commissioner, I'd make a motion to close it, which we've done, and move it to old business for possible vote tonight.
Commission members, there's a motion by Commissioner Botello to move the petition of Robert D. Oliveira to number 1 under old business for discussion of possible action. Is there a second? Second by
Yes.
Commissioner Jowdy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? This is moved to number 1 under old business for discussion of possible action. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let me take this, let me take this, let me put this over here. Now let me put this over here. As we approach the Attorney Marcus show. Second petition tonight is a petition of Attorney R. Marcus for O'Connor Management LLC to add section 6A 2A6 to the zoning regulations, add business or professional office for delivery of rental and or leased automobiles and trucks. So let me bring to you the Planning Commission recommendation. June 6, 2024. Theodore J. Haddad Jr., Chairman, Danbury Zoning Commission, from Arnold D. Finaldi Jr., Chairman Danbury Planning Commission regarding the petition of Neil Marcus for counter management. At the web-based Zoom meeting held on June 5th, 2024, the City of Danbury Planning Commission voted to give the above referenced petition a negative recommendation for the following reasons. Number one, this does not comply with the plan of conservation development, as it could result in the development of land with a use that is not necessarily considered limited and light industrial and blurs the line between commercial and industrial uses. Number two, this amendment has a wide application within the IL-40 district and as a result is not orderly or rational to allow the widespread proliferation of the rental and leasing of automobiles and trucks. Number three, adding the rental and or leasing of automobiles and trucks to the IL-40 zone as a permitted use with no additional use regulations further diminishes the industrial nature of the industrial zone. And number four, since section 6A2B13 already allows a sale or rental of automobiles and trucks as a special exception use, the proposed use is duplicative, creates confusion within the zoning regulations, and is not consistent with the zoning scheme. The motion to give this a negative recommendation was made by Mrs. Hofstadter, seconded by Mr. Sylvain, and passed unanimously by voice vote with 5 ayes for Mr. Chioccio, Mr. Haas, Mrs. Hofstadter, Mr. Sylvain, and Chairman Finaldi. Duplicative. Is that how it's said? I think it's said that way. Additionally, we have a 8.3B referral to Theodore J. Haddad Jr. from Kristen Floberg, Senior Planner, Connecticut Statutory Referral to Westcog from Danbury Attached Zoning Amendment, dated April 23rd, 2024. Thank you for submitting the attached referral to Westcog. The opinion of Westcog staff is that the proposal is of local interest and with minimal intermunicipal impact. Therefore, it is not being forwarded to adjacent municipalities, and the regional staff is making no comment. Okay. Let me now go to Ms. Eminger. If you would like to please review and go over your staff report, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Jennifer Eminger, Acting Planning Director. So the petition you have before you tonight, you have my staff report dated June 3rd, 2024. The petition is to allow as a permitted use, number 6, business or professional office for the delivery of rental and or leased automobiles and trucks. The reason why this petition should be granted is outlined in Attorney Marcus's petition. So from the department's perspective, this use is already allowed as a special exception use in the IL-40 zone. Which it also includes specific use requirements, which are meant to restrict their location, specifically restrict their location. This same amendment was actually brought, interestingly enough, by Attorney Marcus's former colleague, Attorney Robin Kahn, back in 2021. So, which is a good segue to the history, which I also detailed in the staff report. And this is important as this use, the sale or rental of automobiles and trucks. This is an existing use, the special exception use, was never allowed in the IL-40 zone. That text amendment came in and it allowed sales on a very, very limited basis. And as I noted in my staff report, staff as well as the zoning commission had reservations to the introduction of sales and rental of automobiles and trucks. And again, for the new members, they may not know, retail is what this is considered. It's in a use category in the CG20 and the CA80, and we treat it as such. It's considered a retail use. And again, it's reserved for the commercial zones generally. And again, we strive to protect the industrial zone to make sure that we have those light industrial type uses. And as I noted, the zoning commission determined when they approved those two petitions that it was appropriate under very specific requirements, again, meant to limit its broad applicability across the IL 40 district. I also consulted with the zoning enforcement officer, and he agrees that the use is duplicative. See, I said it completely different, Teddy. It's the same basically, to the existing use. So one could argue that the current use under use number 13 inherently includes an office to conduct the business of the primary use. Again, the primary use is the sales and or rental of automobiles and trucks. And this also includes, again, by virtue of the type of use, includes the delivery of such vehicles. This is essentially the same use as that allowed under use 13, except the use is permitted and has no additional use regulations. The petitioner is just calling it another name. And we feel it's an end run around what already exists in the zoning regulations. We consider this to be highly problematic, creates confusion within the zoning regulations, is not consistent with the zoning scheme. Additionally, the rental and leasing of automobiles and trucks as a permitted use by right, as a permitted by right use in the IL 40 zone is contrary to recent text amendments, again, as I just mentioned, that were previously approved by the Zoning Commission. So, sorry, I lost my place in my notes. I apologize. If someone went, if another use came in, say for instance, they came in as office saying they want to do this type of use, to rent and lease cars. It wouldn't be allowed because again, there's a difference between the primary use and the accessory use. The primary use in this case is the rental of automobiles and trucks. That's the use. The accessory portion of that is the actual office. Again, that's the distinction. Yes, office is allowed in the IL 40 zone, but the primary use in this case is still the rental of automobiles and trucks, primary use versus accessory. So having these two uses, one is a permitted use, calling it something different, and then having the use as it exists today, again, is problematic. And we would not recommend it, and it creates all kinds of issues between the Planning and Zoning Department in reviewing plans, interpretations by the zoning enforcement officer. As there are no additional use requirements for the proposed use, the proliferation of a use we consider to be retail in nature in the IL 40 certainly has concerns for staff. The zoning commission must ask themselves, query, if this use is what you want in all IL zones, because again, it's not special exception. There's no use requirements. It's permitted by right in all IL 40 zones. If that's something that the commission desires, and is it considered, again, this type of use, limited or light industrial? Again, as identified in the purpose intent of the IL 40 district, as well as the POCD. So with that, in conclusion, and I'll take a phrase from former planning director Sharon Calitro, it swings the door wide open with respect to retail uses. Again, as I said earlier, we consider this use, the rental of cars and trucks, to be a retail use. By allowing this without any restrictions at all in its duplicative manner, again, swings that door wide open, and begs the question, where does one stop with automobile sales and other retail sales? Such an allowance effectively allows, again, as I'd said, allows retail sales in the IL 40, which we have historically restricted. The department queries if such an allowance is desirable and does it further the purpose and intent of expanding the industrial base of the city. Again, the use is already allowed. This creates all kinds of issues between staff. And for those reasons, staff is not in support of this petition.
Thank you. Commission members, any questions of Ms. Eminger at this time? Commission members?
Yeah, I have a question.
Who is that?
Oh, me. Bruce.
Commissioner Bennett, go ahead. Yes.
Is this petition for new cars and or for used cars? What are they looking for?
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes, Ms. Eminger.
Based off of the petition, it's again, as written, business or professional office for the delivery of rental and or leased automobiles and trucks.
Okay. Because there's strict rules with DMV motor vehicle with the handling of a new car sale. Whoever ultimately delivers the car to a consumer must have the title or bill of sale that they own the vehicle from the factory. That means that I can't sell a Porsche out of my Maserati store. I don't own that franchise. So is this group trying to sell or lease new cars out of there? Well, they can't because they don't have title. That's a regulation in the state of Connecticut. And they'll challenge you on that every step of the way. There's a difference between a leasing agent and a broker lease. In New Jersey and Connecticut, they get away with it, and I don't know how they do, but a broker means that there'd be a broker down the street that would handle the paper transaction of the vehicle. So he would come to me and say, Bruce, I'm going to do a Maserati. This is what I have. Can you do the car for me? I would let him do the paperwork and do the delivery of the car and get a commission back on it. There's not too many dealers in Connecticut that do that because you really hurt yourself. But in New York, it happens every day. Thousands of cars are broker sales. This, to me, is what they want to do, which is not allowed in the state of Connecticut.
Well, we'll see what they have to say about that when they come up the bat. If he doesn't address that in his presentation, you can re-ask that to the petitioner.
Fair enough.
And we can get some answers on that. Anything else, commission members, at this time? Anything else, commission members? Let me also just say,
I have a question, Ted.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Jolly, please.
Okay. Jennifer, are you saying that you don't have any comments, or did I miss that you had a comment to this application?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Do I have a comment?
Well, you said you gave your staff
language.
report. Do you have a comment in your staff report whether to are you in favor or not in favor?
No, we are not. Staff is not in favor of this
Okay,
petition.
all right. Then I missed it. Thank you.
No, I'm sorry. I may not have said that very clearly. So
Okay.
thank you for asking.
Yep.
Yes. Additionally, commission members, it's in your packet as well. But as part of the petition, from the petitioner, reason why the petition should be granted. Currently in the IL40 zone, business and professional offices are allowed as of right, subsection number 5. Storage and parking is also allowed as of right, subsection 19. And maintenance and repair of automobiles is also allowed as of right, subsection 25. Despite all of the automobile uses allowed in the IL40 zone, the activities allowed in a business office are not specified. So it appears that you can rent real estate, have offices for financial services, but a car rental office is not specifically defined through all the elements currently existing in the IL40 zone. The proposed amendment merely resolves any ambiguities in the current zoning regulations. Those are the words from the petitioner. Commission members, any other questions of Ms. Eminger at this time? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Attorney Marcus.
Mr. Chairman, Nick did such a good job on the last application. Is he still on here? Maybe I'll let him do this one. For the record, Neil Marcus, Kona Wolf PC 158, Deer Hill Avenue, on behalf of the applicant O'Connor Management. Bruce Bennett asked the correct question, because if you read the staff report and the Planning Commission recommendation, that deals with a proposal that is not what my client is intending to do on this property at all. Because you're absolutely correct, Bruce. It's a whole different thing to be a licensed dealer in the state of Connecticut. And my client has no intention, nor can he qualify as a licensed new car dealer. So let me go back a step and tell you why I'm here. The property that my client has a contract or an option to purchase is located, it's buying it from Miller Stevenson on Maury Brook Road. It's located directly between the Danbury Post Office and Miller Stevenson. And that's the IL-40 zone. Now, they came to me until I asked them, why are you buying this? It's about 10 acres of property. It's a big site. And they told me what they're going to do. Well, they're going to spend probably $10 or $15 million on this project. It's not a small project. It's a huge investment in the city of Danbury. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And they said, well, we're going to build this, and they're builders, but their tenant is going to be a company that is going to use this site as a regional hub for distributing rental vehicles. Now, he wouldn't tell me, nor could he confide in me who that might be. But say, for example, it's Hertz or Avis or Enterprise. I mean, these companies have to have some place where they can distribute their cars amongst their various entities, local agencies. So anyway, the rental car company, whoever it is going to build a very large garage. That's what they're building. It's a huge garage. And they're also building a large parking area. And then inside the garage, they're going to service and whatever you call a rental car when a car comes in and they clean it and send it out again. Well, they're going to have a big facility for processing a fleet of cars and trucks, cars and or trucks. So I said to them, well, that's perfect. I mean, I went to the zoning regs in the IL-40 zone, and I said, look, you can do this as of right. You can have, starting in the regs, if you read your copy it's attached to my application, you can have a number 19, currently proposed to be 20 if we renumber it with this regulation. You can have a parking area and a parking facility. They said, any limit to how many cars we can put there? And I said, actually, no. He said, we're going to have a couple acres of parking. And I said, you can do that. That's allowed as of right. I said, and they said, and how about maintaining our cars in our fleet, cars and trucks? I said, well, that's currently number 25. As of right, you can repair the automobiles. I said, you can do painting and everything. They said, I'm not sure we do any painting or spraying there. He said, but, repairing is really maintaining. And I said, you can certainly clean your cars. You're allowed to do that as of right in the aisle. It's an IL-40 zone. It's an IL-40 use. And I said, and what else do you need to do? And they said, well, a small section of the building will be our office. I said, no problem. You can go to section 6 and you can have a business, which is what they are, or a professional office right now. I said, what's going to go on in the office? He said, well, for the most part, it's going to be managing this facility and moving vehicles around the area that we're covering. He said, but we will allow people to come in and rent cars. And I said, oh, well, that shouldn't be a problem, but I'm going to just check with the city and make sure. I mean, there's absolutely no reason that a business office is not a car rental office. I mean, I don't know what else a car rental office is. So I called up Sharon Calitro and I said, here's my client's idea, but before we sign off and tell them to buy the property and spend $10 million on this project, I have to know that if they go in there and somebody goes in and signs a car lease in that office, that you'll consider that a business office. To which Sharon said, not in your life. You'll become a car dealer. I said, hold on a second. If you go to Enterprise over on Federal Road, you go in there. Now, granted, that's not the IL-40 zone, but it's a car rental agency. And I go there once in a while. So I go into Enterprise, and the car is sitting out on a parking lot in front. They have a garage out in the back where they clean it and change the oil, do whatever they do, maintain it. And I go into the office there, and I go to some nice clerk behind the desk, and they pull out the paperwork, and I check off all the forms, and I sign it. And I give them my credit card and a copy of my license, and they hand me the keys, and off I go. That's what they want to do in this office. That's what the purpose of the office is. So I said, but Sharon said, nope, we will not allow that. So now I have a huge red light. This project is basically on hold. And, you're talking, if they do this, as I say, it's a huge hit. It's a huge boost to the grant list. And it is an employment opportunity. The people who do this work, the mechanics, are paid pretty well. And even the clerical people. I mean, it's a decent job, in the market that we're in. So they're going to employ a fair number of people. And this is now all held up on the fact that they can't sign car rental agreements in the office. They're not selling cars. They have no intention of selling cars. They'd agree to a prohibition on selling cars. I mean, they're not a car dealership. They are a company that leases automobiles and trucks. So that's where we're hung up now. So everything we're talking about doing is no change to the IL-40 zone. And in reality, the strange thing is that I could have my law office in that building. I mean, Ted, you could have a real estate office in that building. My accountant could be in that building. I mean, professional offices are allowed in the IL-40 zone. Business offices, I mean, you could have a banking office in there. I could have a bank could have a place for me to go in and sign an installment loan, or actually, if it were the office of a bank, I could probably sign a car rental agreement there too. So they're not asking for anything other than clarity that before they jump off the diving board and into the water, that they're going to be able to swim out. So that was the genesis for what I thought was a very simple change to the regulation. I'm just saying that the term business or professional office includes an office where you can deliver rental or leased automobiles and trucks. And by the way, I'll go back to Bruce's comment because he probably knows this better than I do. I said to my client, what do you mean deliver? I said, delivery is, something comes in on a truck. He said, nope. When we hand the keys to the customer, we're delivering the automobile. When we hand the rental agreement to you as our customer, we're delivering an automobile. He said, if they're going to be nitpicking about what you can do in a business or professional office, we want to know that not only can they sign the lease, but we can actually hand them the keys and they can go outside onto the parking lot and drive away in the car. That's what their proposal is. Now, I suggested to the client, you could save yourself a lot of time, energy, and money if you just agree to rent an office at the Danbury Square Mall about 500 yards up the street. And you can do everything else on this facility, but your business office will be up the street on the other side of Kenosha, where you're in the CG20 zone, and then you could be in a storefront, and it could be your rental office. It's simple. And to which they told me I was nuts. They would never do that. And that's why I'm here tonight. They elected to have me amend the zoning regulations rather than bifurcate and put their business office a few hundred yards up the street. So, as a matter of fact, I actually offered, I had the space available, a client of mine, that they could have rented that office. But anyway, they were not interested. So now you go to my application. Currently, the IL-40 zone, I'm reading from my reasons, allows these business and professional office as of right. You can also store and park cars and trucks as of right. You can maintain and repair trucks and cars as of right. And all of this is allowed, but if that business office, as I say, is to rent a car or truck, not allowed. It somehow, it miraculously changes the whole operation. So with all due respect, when Jennifer wrote her report, we never had this discussion. And clearly, when the planning commission considered it, they didn't have any discussion. And much like Bruce's comments when he started tonight's meeting, he had no idea what we were talking about. What are you doing there? You're gonna set up a company that is probably gonna violate the Connecticut laws. In reality, it's the exact opposite. These guys are gonna set up a distribution facility which they can operate under the laws of the state of Connecticut without having to become a car dealer, because they don't think that they can qualify for other things that they do. And I didn't get into all that because in reality, I don't even know at this point who the ultimate user is going to be. All I know is the type of facility that they want to do. So just picture this now. We're right next to the Danbury Post Office. Now, is the post office a retail facility? I mean, Jennifer said that we consider this office to lease cars a retail facility. But right next door, I mean, isn't the post office a retail facility? You go in there, you can get a passport, you can buy stamps, you can buy packaging material. What the hell's that doing in an aisle 40 zone? It used to be down on Main Street in a commercial zone, still is. However, there's a big argument that the post office is a truck facility. They operate a lot of vehicles in and out of there, and they have a big sorting and a big industrial operation in the back there where they sort packages and they, put them on conveyors and everything. That's a fairly industrial type of operation. But the front of the building is a retail operation. And nobody has ever said that that's somehow denigrating the IL 40 zone, because that's been there a long time and it's there by choice. That wasn't an accident. So similarly, the type of use that I'm talking about, if you drive around Myrie Brook Road, and granted, I'll take credit, we expanded the automotive use in Myrie Brook Road so that the Mercedes-Benz dealer could operate at the corner there. That was a special carve out of the zoning regs, and that allows the sale of cars. And I can't meet that here. The property I'm talking about doesn't meet the requirements of the Mercedes. It's not on a state highway. It's not within 1,500 feet of an existing dealership. I mean, the Mercedes zoning was for that specific site. And then you go to North American Motors, where we're allowing a limited sale of used cars, but these are unique collector, high-end. They can't sell a used car for less than $75,000. A motorcycle, I think, is for less than $35,000. But these are specialized vehicles. But if you go around Myrie Brook generally, there are a lot of just regular automotive. STS, it's a shop. I mean, they work on cars. And interestingly enough, if you brought your car into a repair shop in the IL 40 zone, and you were going to leave it there for a couple of days, and they're going to say, well, we'll provide you with a loaner. Theoretically, you can't sign that loan agreement in that shop. You have to go somewhere off-site when you're not in the IL 40 zone, because their business office apparently isn't allowed to do that. Now, quite honestly, that doesn't make any sense to me either. So we got to analyze what the objection is from the planning commission, who has no idea what I'm planning for the site, or my client's planning. So in paragraph 3 of the planning commission letter to Theodore Haddad, June 6th, it says, adding the rental and or leasing of automobiles and trucks to the IL 40 zone as a permitted use with no additional use regulations further diminishes the industrial nature of the industrial zone. Well, how's that? Everything that we're going to do there is allowed as of right today in the industrial zone. So how are we diminishing it? Because we're going to maintain vehicles, we're going to repair them, we're going to store them, we're going to, have a parking lot for them. I mean, that's all currently. So I don't know what the planning commission was thinking of when they said by allowing somebody to go into the office and sign a lease agreement, it's going to diminish the industrial nature of the industrial zone. But that's what they said, and to me, it's sort of nonsensical. And then it goes on in paragraph 4 to say that the proposed use is duplicative, nice word tonight, creates confusion within the zoning regulation and is not consistent with the zoning scheme. But that's not true. 6A, 2A, 19, 25, all those sections currently allow it. How could that be inconsistent with the zoning scheme? It's in our zoning regulations today. We can maintain, repair, and store cars. So again, it's like saying, but if you sign a car lease in the office, that's going to somehow be inconsistent with the zoning scheme, even though you could sign a house lease in that office. If it's a real estate office, or if it were my law office, you could lease anything in the world in there. We do leases all the time. It's a lease. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But going back, and as I say, to Jennifer's reports, in the first page, in the second paragraph, by way of history, the word sales is mentioned throughout that paragraph. That if you strike the word sales, then you would know what we were doing. But the word sales is wrong. We are not intending to do sales of vehicles. That would be a car dealership, and we don't qualify. So this whole section is about sales. You go on to page 2. At the end of the paragraph at the top, it says, where we were selling cars, i.e. the Mercedes dealer or North American, additional protections were deemed appropriate to control the proliferation of retail sales. But we're not doing retail sales. So they're not going to proliferate on our site. We're not doing retail sales. The word sales is inappropriate. And then it goes on in the next paragraph, planning and staff and zoning enforcement consider the proposed use of a business or professional office for the delivery or rental or lease of automobiles or trucks to be the same in what currently exists under use number 13. Well, use number 13, I can get it here. Use number 13 is institutions. No, I'm not sure why it's the same as use number 13, quite honestly. But anyway, I couldn't figure that one out. I got stumped by that. The suggestion, maybe Jennifer can clear that up for me afterwards. It says again that it's considered the same as, and that's already regulated by 6A 2B 13. Oh, so we're going to go to 6A 2B. That's right. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're saying if you are doing a new car sales dealership, a car dealership, that's correct. Then it's controlled by that. But to put that in the report when we're not doing that is a little bit of a mislead, quite honestly. But then again, as I said, I don't know that the staff really knew what we had in mind, because this is all based upon a telephone conversation that I had with Sharon Cletro probably 6 months ago. It was a long time ago. The commission, the report from the staff, again, I'm on the second page. I'm on the 4th paragraph. We talk about business or professional use offices for the delivery of rental and leased automobiles and trucks. The proliferation of this use is of concern. But again, if that's a concern, we ought to amend the zoning regulations and take business and professional offices out of the IL40 zone, because we're not proliferating them. They're there already. It's the question of what type of documents can you sign in that business office. That's the whole issue here. Can you sign an auto lease in there? And then he says, in the next paragraph, one could then query if this allows car dealerships as a permitted use. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This proposal is not for a car dealership, period. So no, it's not a car dealership. And then it goes on the next page in the third paragraph of that page. The commission may reasonably conclude that this amendment has wide application within the IL 40 district and will result in, I mean, right now, anywhere in the IL 40 district, you can do the garage, and that's where they are. There are a lot of garages in the IL 40 district. You can do parking lots. There are a lot of those car storage areas. You know, the tow truck companies where they have their yards, IL 40 district. So all of that's currently allowed. And the question is, by letting somebody go in and sign a car rental lease, does that change any of that? And the commission can think about it, but my thinking, my thought is it doesn't at all. I mean, we'll still have the tow truck companies in the IL 40 zone storing their cars, and we'll still have the repair shops maintaining, and the auto body shops doing body work. I mean, that's going to continue whether you can lease cars in an office or not. So I'm a little discouraged by what's going on here, because I actually thought, my client originally thought I was nuts when I said the city's not going to let you sign car leases in there. And they said, who even observes this stuff? And I said, somebody will complain to the city of Danbury that you're renting cars on Myrie Brook Road. And that's what you're going to have at some point, whether it's a competitor. If your company is Avis and Hertz thinks that you shouldn't be doing it there, then Hertz will complain. If your company's Enterprise and you know, whatever, anybody can complain. And if you're Penske doing mostly trucks, somebody else can complain too. So I said, that's your concern, is that somebody's going to say, well, you're renting cars there, and they're going to take a look at this and say that you can't do that in the general business office. So my client is teetering on just bailing. I mean, they're thinking that maybe the Stony Hill district of Bethel is a better area for them to do their project, or something like that. Obviously, quite honestly, for their facility, they want to be near an interstate. They don't want to be too far. And of course, on Myrie Brook, they're close to an interstate. They like the Myrie Brook area because, quite honestly, the post office is compatible. It's compatible use. I mean, trucks are parked out in the post office lot. Cars are parked in the post office lot. It's an industrial facility with a retail type of use, a business off, an office type of use. So I'm a little discouraged in thinking that we're going to chase these people away. And other than that, this site lays out very well for their proposed use. Their wetlands disturbances are relatively minor. There, as I say, the type of traffic that will go in and out of there is consistent with what occurs right next door at the post office. So there are all sorts of good reasons to do this in the IL 40 zone, because it's currently allowed. And as I say, if I could just convince them to move their offices a couple hundred yards up the street, I would be here tonight. But they won't do it, and I don't blame them, but that's a business decision. But at the end of the day, I'm here because I think that this commission, if you understand what we're proposing, will maybe come to the same conclusion that if it's a business office or a professional office that's allowed in the zone, we really don't care a lot about what type of transactions they do in that office. And that's really not a zoning criteria. Zoning controls uses of property, offices, stores, houses. I mean, those are uses. But what goes on in somebody's store, now you can say that liquor stores have special considerations that maybe shoe stores don't have. That's all allowed. So if you are thinking that maybe there's some sort of special consideration to the type of business office that I'm looking for, which is basically to sign car leases, that's something that I hadn't considered. But as I say, if you want to think about what we're doing on a much smaller scale, go into a Hertz or an Avis or Enterprise or a Budget, rent a car, go to any of those car agencies, and basically they're all set up with the car storage, mostly right on the site, the maintenance and repair, mostly right on the site, and their business office, right on the site. And if you can do all of those in the IL-40 zone, I don't see any reason to restrict the transaction that goes on in the business office. So that's my proposal. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I would encourage, if the commission's concerned that, and you don't know where the site is, that you go out and go to the post office and continue driving, and you'll see a wide open space between the post office and Miller Stevenson. And that's really the site that we're talking about. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Marcus. Commission members, any questions? Oh, but
Yeah, I've got a question.
Commissioner Nejim, hold on one second. Let me just, before I forget, commission members, this is not site specific.
That's
This
correct.
is for the entire IL-40 zone. And also for the new commission members and Attorney Marcus, the post office is a government building. It's an exempt building from zoning. If they wanted, they could have a pig slaughterhouse there and sell bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwiches at a card table on the front of the road. So that's an exempt parcel. So, but we know what you meant, Attorney Marcus. But they're not
Okay.
they're not there because of us.
And by the way,
They do whatever they want to do.
your comment reminds me that on South Street in the city of Danbury, and it's just closed down, for many years, there was an Enterprise car rental agency. And that is in the IL-40 zone. So that's been there for years. It's there by virtue of a variance that was granted a long time ago. But it's there in the IL-40 zone. And if you look at that site, it does all the same things. It's connected to a garage where they do maintenance and repair. They store cars. I mean, it's a little version of what we're talking about. And so if you want to go drive by there, but you're right, it is not site specific. For me, the application is site specific, but you're correct. There are areas out in Shelter Rock where there are IL-40 uses where somebody could actually put their car rental office on their tow yard, on their storage yard. Correct. Thank you.
Commissioner Nejim, go ahead.
Yes, Neil, in regard to, you had said that you could have an office there. You're a lawyer could have an office there, am I correct?
Correct. Professional offices are allowed.
Okay, and you sign leases there, correct?
As many as I can, but anytime a realtor will refer.
And what about a real estate office?
That would be, to me, that's got to be either, are those guys professionals? I don't know, Tom, you tell me, but it's either business or professional. Yes.
So, but they're signing leases.
Absolutely.
This to me sounds like just a clarification, and I think that signing leases actually isn't really a retail operation. It doesn't make sense that it's retail. I mean, we sign pools, swimming pools, but we also sign lease. We also sell swimming pool products. The products are a retail operation, but the swimming pools are totally different. So, not to mention, we also sign leases, for our rental properties. So I'd have to agree with you.
And by the way, my concluding remark on my application is the proposed amendments merely resolves ambiguities in the zoning regulations. This merely resolves that you can sign a lease in a professional business office. And that lease can be, as you say, for a piece of swimming pool equipment. It can be for a house. It can be for a business office. I mean, it's a lease.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any commission members of Attorney Marcus at this time?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Nazario, go ahead.
Attorney Marcus, can you give me
Yes,
an
sir.
estimate of what percentage of revenue will be generated from this office, from the leasing activity versus other revenue generating activities?
I can't say. It would be hard because they haven't even shared with me who is going to be leasing cars there. But the size of this facility is to have a distribution center. So otherwise, they can't lease that many cars in this facility. It's a big facility. So I would say that the bulk of the use of the property is to store vehicles and distribute them. But if 2 or 3 people come in a day to rent a car or lease a car, you know, that would be the activity. I don't, it would be hard for me to quantify it. It'd be a huge guess. But the size of the facility that they're talking about is not just your average car rental agency. It is.
Thank you. Any other commission members of Attorney Marcus at this time? Commissioner Bennett, you got your mic is on. Unmute yourself. Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Bennett, unmute. There you go. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay. Neil, this
Yes,
is a kind of a off growth of Carvana in concept or Guru in concept, where you have a big facility that's going to sell a lot of used cars. Did they tell you at all how many projected sales they expect? Or I'm not going to say sales, wrong term, leases expect.
Actually, that's somewhat like Sid's question. I don't know the number, but by the way, I don't think any of these are used. Basically, when you go to the car agency to rent a car at the airport, you get a relatively new car. Obviously, other people have used it, but I get the sense that these things are relatively new and not a lot of use.
Well, I see for Meyerbrook, that's a narrow little road, and there's going to be a lot of tractor trailers taking cars from the auction. That's where they're going to go. These are auction guys. They're going to buy cars in Florida and Georgia and Indiana, and they're going to ship them to Danbury, Connecticut, and send them out to other dealers or on a retail lease. A retail lease. That's the new thing. It's no longer a lease that the consumer is not responsible for it anymore. Now what the banks are doing, especially with used cars, you can lease this car, but you own it. So the title on top of the contract says lease with option or lease with buy, those kind of things. But let me go back to my.
Well, by the way, Bruce, just the phrase that they have said is that because I asked the same thing. I said, where are these things coming from? He said, generally from the factory. So, I don't know about this because I said the same thing. What's our truck traffic going to be? And they said, we're going to have deliveries. They said, but in reality, they said, it's not going to be a lot different than the post office. They can track in and out of there all the time.
The city put limitations on the Mercedes dealer and the American Motor Cars on how many they could stock and what they could sell. I better watch out what I say. You can't give carte blanche to these guys to stock 1,000 cars there because they'll eat that road up in about 30 days.
Huh.
So I don't know how you're going to protect the city with that or the residents with that, but that's the only way they're going to make money. I've been doing this for 40 years. I know, and I know guys that are doing exactly what you're talking about.
Have you made any money?
They're out of it.
No, I'm saying, have you made any money in 40 years?
Oh, I think I made a little. But I worked my ass off too, right?
All right. What else? Commissioner, you done, Commissioner Bennett?
The answer, by the way, Bruce, is that if they go forward with this project, they need to get a site plan approved. And the site plan in the Planning Commission is going to look at the issues of how traffic comes in and out of the facility. They've got to look at that.
Yeah. Let's see. You compare it to Enterprise, and that's not a good comparison because Enterprise does not retail a car out of their stores in Danbury. You have to go to Norwalk. So they're licensed in Norwalk to be a retailer. They're not licensed in Danbury to be a retailer. They can lease, but they can't retail sell. So it's not the same comparison.
Okay, that I didn't realize.
That's all I have for right now. I have to learn a little bit more, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Commissioner Botello.
Yes, thank you for the floor. Attorney
Absolutely.
Marcus, I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Basically, we in the past have always had at least to be able to put our arms around what the project was going to be when it grew up. And the fact that we have such secrecy here makes me concerned about what are they trying to do. And so my first question to you is, what is the size of this building that they're projecting they're going to put on this property? Let's start there.
They're still doing the design, but the size of that building it's got to be a 40,000 square footer. It's not less than 20 and probably not more than 40. It's a big building, about 40.
Okay, so it's 40,000 square feet, so that we don't know basically who it is. It's going to be a secret about that. But for us in the past, we've always analyzed what the function of that type of business was so that we could better understand and see if it was going to fit in the scenario where we want to put it. And the fact that we have so many inconsistencies, and quite honestly, you're vague about what it is, and you've taken out an account that doesn't trust you enough to tell you who it is. It's concerning, but that's what I want to bring this to. I mean, it's just like there's a lot of questions here, and how can we make a decision? We don't know what it's going to be when it grows up. And then you had mentioned about Enterprise about on South Street. I just want to bring it to your attention that Enterprise took over an existing building that was previously years ago was the Volvo dealership. So
Right.
that it had a history of being a car dealership down there, even though it was non-conforming, but it was non-conforming, but pre-existing use. So that's a
they
little
got
bit.
very yes.
But the fact was that building originally was the Volvo dealer back in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
And the Dodge dealer.
In the Dodge.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Never
Okay.
done.
I just researched it for the property owner.
Right. Okay. So I'm just saying that we usually make decisions because we feel comfortable. And at this point, I would like to ask Jennifer, I mean, now what is the rebuttal? You've heard about some comments that Mr. Marcus has mentioned. Do you feel any different about your position? And what would your rebuttal be on this?
She has to, I'm sorry for interrupting, Ms. Eminger. She'll have her chance to rebut. We have to go through those in favor of those in opposition first.
Okay.
All right.
Then I'll
but I'm
hold that
sure-
question.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I'm sure you don't even have to ask. I'm sure she's already got what's the expression? Arrows in her quiver. Is that it? Whatever. Is that how they say it?
Something like that.
Duplicative. I got that one right. Anyway, any other commission members at this time for Attorney Marcus? Any other commission members? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anyone that would wish to speak in opposition to this petition? Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to this petition? Councilman Rotella, were you waving or did you?
Yeah, no, actually I am. Yeah, am I recognized?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, Councilman
Okay, thank
Rotella.
you. For the record, Paul Rotello, 13 Linden Place, Danbury. This is fascinating. I mean, we're kind of flying blind here. Attorney Marcus has made some comments about, the disposition of a lease versus retail. I mean, you hand a guy a pen, he signs a piece of paper. Is that retail? It's a lease. I mean, I hand a guy a credit card, I walk out with a TV set. Is that, I mean, what is that? We're talking retail. I mean, we kind of know what we're talking about. If I open up a store called Rent to Own, they're not actually buying anything, they're renting it. Is that retail or not? I mean, we can split hairs here, but I think we all know what we're talking about. But that's not what I find interesting. What I find interesting is the issue about operating in the dark here, and for some of the folks that have been around for a while, Teddy, myself, Rick Chowdy, have been talking about the indirect effects of concentrating on a proposal versus the citywide effect of a zoning decision. And I have made points on several occasions in the past, including the recent past, is that once we get away from the site-specific proposal, we don't really know what the next guy is going to do with this new zoning amendment or additional use. And that's something that we have to think about, but it kind of gets lost in the bells and whistles of a specific use and architectural drawings and new striping and painting and things like that, and our genuine affection perhaps for the petitioner. In this particular case, what we're looking at is an ancillary effect that's happening right under our noses. We don't know what they're going to do. Well, one thing I'm really uncomfortable with is this issue that Mr. Bennett brought up, which I was unaware of, about how you actually have to get permission from the state to sell a car. I would hate to think that the zoning commission would allow something that could be so easily changed by the stroke of a pen of the state. Maybe we take Mr. Marcus at his word and the client is simply going to be doing a storage facility with an occasional rental. But then they get permission from the state, and that becomes, because of the decision that you made, it becomes a car dealership. And any other place in IL-40 can do the same thing. I have spoken to people who live adjacently to IL-40 land, and they have some concerns. Unfortunately, the people that I've spoken to this evening were at a neighborhood meeting, and their meeting, which was scheduled long preceding this one, is taking precedence, and they can't be here tonight. But I have spoken to some people, 6th Ward people, who do have some concerns. Earlier today, I spoke to staff. One of the concerns that we had, would this affect, as you know, and I don't want to dwell on this, would this affect the so-called Clancy parcel in the reserve? And staff told me it would not, because even though that's IL-40, it's a PND. So that kind of calmed the nerves of the people in the reserve, because they just kind of got through this, and that Clancy thing, just for the record, has not actually been disposed of yet. We're not exactly sure how that's proceeding, but if this affected that, it would be a cause for some concern in the reserve. But generally, you know, the city of Danbury has 3 major economic drivers. One is high-tech defense, one is high-tech healthcare, and one is retail. And as you all know, it's almost impossible to cite any more industrial property. And if we dilute the industrial property with retail, and I have to stipulate that the renting or leasing of a car, to my eyes, is a retail operation. If I walk in without something and walk out with something, that's a physical transaction. It may take place on a piece of paper, but you know, everything is digits now. I don't take my wallet out and give people cash. Oftentimes I buy something and something's deposited. Sometimes we even buy software and no physical transaction has taken place, but a transaction, a retail type of transaction, has taken place. I think it's a short step from whatever Mr. Marcus and his clients want to call this, a transaction where you go into something, get something that you didn't have before, and leave with that. I think it's a short step to actually buying a TV set or something else. I think anybody could argue that you're allowing essentially car sales in IL-40. Let us sell, I don't know, let us sell clothing, let us sell tractors, let us sell TV sets, let us sell something else. And then when that new high-tech defense firm comes to Danbury, they can't locate because there's no more industrial property left. There's a reason why we have these zones. You know, there's a reason why we have retail, and why we have commercial, and why we have industrial, and why we have residential. All these things fit together. It's part of a whole, a holistic whole. Some communities don't do that. Many communities don't do that. But I think Danbury's got the right balance, and I think we have to continue along those roads. And I think for the sake of the future of the city, we have to just be absolutely sure when we make a change like this that it's not just because we were sold on at this point, amorphous proposal that nobody really seems to understand, but we know before we make the decision exactly what it is for the site-specific application and what it's going to mean for all the other potential applications throughout the city. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Rotello. Commission members, any questions of Councilman Rotello? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, who is that? Oh, Councilman Chianese.
Yes, I'm trying to turn on my camera, but I don't.
No, you're okay. I mean, we got you. As long as we can hear you, you can go ahead. You got the floor for as long as you'd like.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, thank you. For the record, my name is Benjamin Chanese. I live at 5 Briar Ridge Road. And I'm also a member of the city council that represents the 6th ward as well. Like Councilman Rotello said, I was at a neighborhood meeting this evening. And when I mentioned to them that there's a potential additional use for their neighborhood to add as a right additional automobile rentals and leasing of trucks, they almost once again fell off their chairs because they feel that their neighborhood is under attack. And for those who don't know that, that's the Murray Brook Road, which Attorney Mark has mentioned several times this evening regarding Murray Brook. It's a windy road. One side is residential office, while the other side is IL 40. And to think that they could have a rent-a-car, whether it be, as they said this evening, we don't know what physical enterprise would be there. That was very concerning to them because they feel that their road cannot take any more uses that's going to increase any type of traffic, especially if it's light trucks or box trucks on that road. So that's very concerning to them. If they could be here this evening, they would be. So if the meeting gets continued to the next meeting, I'm sure you may have some people from Murray Brook showing up to this meeting as well. Like I said, I do live on Briar Ridge Road. I have one way out of my road, and that's down Bacchus Avenue. I pass this site practically every day. And for those who may not remember, I was chairman of the Environmental Impact Commission. And again, my deep condolences to Bernie Gallo, who passed away today as a former chair of the same commission. But I do remember when I was chairman that this piece is highly wetlands. If this is the piece that I'm talking about between the post office and Miller Stevenson's, that's a very high wetland piece, which is why it was for sale for practically over 25 years. Across the street from Bacchus Avenue is the Mill Plain. It's part of the swamp. So that is an issue that's going to have to be addressed by the Wetlands Commission before I would think this commission could really act, because why pass a zone change when this site may not be suitable for the business that they wish to put on it. And if it's not suitable, again, as Chairman Haddad said, it's not site specific, it's citywide. It would be like a snake that's going to slither till it finds another location that can fit this proposal. And behold, here comes Murray Brook Road that has several parcels that can fit this build. So now while one application for one area, which we kind of know where it's going to be, could potentially impact another one. And if it's successful, it could be just snaking around. And now we have several rentals of automobiles and light box trucks on a road. By the way, back on Bacchus Avenue, which is highly traveled, and when 84 backs up, the road itself backs up from George Washington Highway, almost by the post office. So it is a highly traveled road. And I didn't remember Attorney Marcus any type of traffic analysis that extra traffic would bring on this road. There are several accidents at the entrance of the post office. So, I mean, I saw several of them myself. So that's a potential there as well, as accidents, because people don't expect an entrance and boom, they stop short, and hence you have an accident. The road is highly traveled, and it's concerning that any development on that road would just add to the already busy road. He mentioned the post office. Most of their trucks leave very early in the morning, and they come back late afternoon where there's less traffic on there. This location will be in between those 2 hours, so traffic is going to be bad on that road. And since it's citywide, it could be not just here, it could be in other wards as well where IL 40 is permitted. And it's a concern to have to pass something that could be blind. So my objection is that we need to really look at the IL 40, stop diluting it. They're not making any more IL 40. And we have to protect it from as an economic driver that's going to increase our grand list the right way and not just buy automobiles. Because remember, I mean, automobiles may not be taxed for property tax purposes. So, you know, we may not be getting as much revenue as was said for this piece. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for my time.
Thank you, Councilman Chianese. Commission members, any questions of Councilman Chianese? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? I see the hand of Councilman Perkins. Councilman Perkins, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Dwayne Perkins, 22 Main Street. I too am a member of the Danbury City Council representing the 5th Ward. While I don't have a lot of IL 40 in my particular district, I do have some. I have a piece that goes up along the top of Worcester Heights, and I also have some along Mountain Road near Long Ridge Road and everything. So that's why I'm here to make sure that we are represented. Like some of the speakers have said already, there is a high level of ambiguity, surrounding this whole proposal. And as mentioned previously, I think we need to have a whole lot of more information before we can begin to make decisions, especially at this level. So you have heard myself, Rotello, Chianese, come here in front of you, Mr. Chairman, and just position ourselves as individuals who are concerned about the integrity, the sanctity of our light industrial zones, various types of commercial zones, residential zones as well, making sure that we are well aware of things that go on and to present any potential slippery slopes and unintended consequences, which is why we are here today. So I fully support the decision of the planning director to give this a negative support, especially since we don't have as much information as we need. And we might have more information going forward, but right now, I don't support this proposal. Mr. Chairman, can I have a bit of personal privilege for Mr. Gallo?
Oh, absolutely. You certainly can. Take your time.
So we got the information not all that long ago that Bernie had a medical situation. As soon as I got on the council, Bernie was one of the guys that I can call, and he would always call me back. If I asked him a question, and I'm pretty good at asking questions because of my educational background, but if he couldn't answer the question, which he could most of the time, he would put me in front of someone who could. And I always remember that. Also, I applied for a couple of grants lately. He filed a letter of support on our behalf. I called him again for the second letter of support. He mentioned that he had gotten a little bit of a hard time for the first letter of support. So guess what he does? He offers another level of support. That's the kind of guy he was. Okay. So that's the type of thing that made me have a tremendous amount of respect for him. And I'll always have a special place in my heart for Bernie Gallo. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Very nice words. Commission members, anything of Councilman Perkins? Commission members? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? By the way, Councilman Chianese, I see your hand. If you wanted to speak in terms of
I just want to add something, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, go ahead.
Just really quick. I mean, I just want to support Dwayne Perkins on Bernie Gallo. He definitely was a great person. a prior council member as well. But I just want to add to your thought what IL 40 property is. And I didn't mention it my first time, but I just want to mention it again. Leaf Farm is IL 40 property. So just picture this development on that piece of property there. That's what you're doing. It may not be the intentions of tonight's application. It may not be your intentions to approve this, but just think about the impact what it would have to allow this development or this use added to the IL 40 on that piece of property. So we all seen it. We all know what I mean by Leaf Farm. It's a lot of land, but it's also IL 40. So I just want you to have in your mind what IL 40 is that's undeveloped. So I just want you to have that thought in your mind. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Chinese. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Attorney Marcus.
If I may, thank you again for the record.
Thank you.
Neil Marcus. Well, I'm not sure we're going to close this out tonight because there's been a request for further information. So we're going to try to provide it. But
what information do you have was requested?
Well, Bob Botello wants to see more about the operation. So I'm going to try to see if I can get an actual schematic of the proposed building, parking area, show you what's actually proposed there. He wants to see the size, and I'll see what I can get. But it's interesting. He says that he doesn't like the secrecy. And I chuckle when I hear that, because in this business, lawyers have to certainly maintain their clients' discretionary information and be discreet. And so we are oftentimes not in a position to give information that shouldn't be publicly circulated. And national companies, as they make major decisions, sometimes don't like to announce them in advance, whether they don't want their competition to know about it, whether they don't want to bring out people that will oppose it because of who they are. I respect that. And I will tell you, a lot of you may know that there's a Target located on Stony Hill Road in Bethel before they went to the mall. And I did that project many years ago, and I was the subject of an editorial in the Danbury News-Times when I was being less than candid. That's what they accused me of, less than candid. They could say I was a liar. Less than candid with the Bethel Zip Planning and Zoning Commission when I wouldn't admit that we were planning to do a Lowe's at that site. Well, guess what? Lowe's is not at that site. I knew exactly where Lowe's was looking, and it wasn't there. And they were pressing me at that commission to say that this was a Lowe's operation. And quite honestly, it wasn't. And Target was not, I was not in a position to disclose Target at that time, and the rest is history. But to the extent that I couldn't disclose who the ultimate user was going to be, it makes no difference about the land use issues. I mean, whatever we designed for that site, the roads going, the driveways going in, the lighting, the drainage, it didn't matter whether it was a Lowe's or a Target's or a Home Depot or a Walmart, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, I'd like the commission not to get too focused on who may be the ultimate operator of the facility.
Attorney Marcus,
However,
can I just add for a second, Attorney Marcus?
Good.
I agree with you totally. I was thinking about that as Commissioner Botello was speaking. What I'd like for you to do is you should conduct the rest of your rebuttal. Don't be dependent upon Commissioner Botello's potential motion of continuing it for a specific reason, because the rest of the commission may not vote that way. This commission has the option of closing it, of continuing it for a specific reason, or just continuing it and keeping it open. So
I respect that, but
yeah, all right.
As to the request for more information, I will try to get that. If I can get it, I think I can probably get some information as to the layout of the site that would be proposed. I think there's enough developed at this point conceptually for the commission to take a look at. So that's one thing. In terms of the opposition from Paul and Ben Chadis and Dwayne Perkins. It's interesting. Paul says that, well, leasing is retail. And of course, if that's the case, and then he said that he's worried about the citywide effect, essentially, of watering down valuable industrially zoned space, IL-40. And Paul, I'm not going to debate that with you, but I'm going to tell you should read the IL-40 regs, because for years we can do banking or financial institutions. If they're not retail, I don't know what the hell they are. And of course, we talked about the fact whether you had a real estate office or an accountant or a lawyer in the business or professional offices. And of course, somebody mentioned Lee Farms. I mean, those were all business and professional offices. And again, a lot of those could be considered retail, I guess, because if you go in and lease property, whatever. So if you look at that, I mean, all of these uses, daycare centers in the IL-40 zone. I mean, I think daycare is more like a retail use than an industrial use. Institutions for a skill or vocation, that's like a school, or what it was a driving range or something where they teach you a skill. That seems to be more retail than industrial. If you go down and you look at police stations, post offices, again, I talked about the post office. A lot of those are pretty retail. So in a kennel, I mean, I think most people who use a kennel are more retail than wholesale. But they've got all these uses in the IL-40 zone, which do sound a little bit like retail. But I don't think that the decision tonight in this application should focus on that, because the fact that you can repair cars, park cars, distribute cars, do all of those things, and have a business office for that use, but the only thing you can't do is sign a lease. It just doesn't go to watering down or diluting the industrial zone. But on the other hand, you and Ben have to talk to each other because you guys usually agree on stuff. But I'm listening to Ben, and he's talking about traffic concerns. Well, if you want to beef up your industrial use of the properties, then you're going to create more truck traffic, larger truck traffic. I mean, and I'm not going to argue with Ben either. Traffic is always a concern whenever I do a proposal in the city of Danbury. We have to deal with it. So I'm not disagreeing with Ben. But on the one hand, if you want to keep this area, really industrial, your traffic concerns will be greater than if you do what is currently allowed. You water it down with a little bit of retail oriented and business commercial types of uses. And then, Dwayne is concerned about the high level of ambiguity. Well, that's one of the things I'm trying to clear up, and hopefully I will. But at the end of the day, this meeting will send a message to my client, in terms of what the city of Danbury is looking for in this particular site that they're looking to buy. And I'm not sure it's a very clear message, quite honestly. But I'll have that discussion with the client. The guy who I saw was on this meeting before was our city development business development officer, and I'd like to maybe hear his comments at some point, not necessarily this evening, as to what we should encourage people to do on a site like this, where it's located on Myrie Brook Road, next to the post office. And again, with respect to Ben's Shanice's concerns about wetlands, no one in their right mind is going to take this project to wetlands before they know that they don't have a zoning issue. So we got to get through zoning first. And he's right, we will go to wetlands. But quite honestly, Ben, when I was a first-year student at the Worcester School in the middle of the last century, we used to play football on this site. There was we ran out of athletic fields at Worcester, so they sent the freshmen to go play football on that site. And between you and me, it was not an athletic field, and it was rough. But I don't think anybody got too wet out there. we didn't have problems with the wetlands. But wetlands will be a concern if we ever get this project to move forward to the next application. So we'll address the opposition on these issues, but I'm not sure we'll ever get there unless we deal with the ambiguity. So that's what we're going to do. And as I say, I'm perfectly willing to try to provide some more information. I don't know that I'll ever disclose who is actually going to occupy this if it goes forward. I'll ask that question too. But at the end of the day, I think that that's a minor issue. Thank you. And that's all we have for this evening.
Thank you, Attorney Marcus. Commission members, last shot, potentially last shot to speak to Attorney Marcus. Anything, commission members, any questions of Attorney Marcus? Okay, Attorney Marcus, we may or may not see you again. I will now call on Ms. Eminger.
Say with such gusto.
Ms. Eminger. Did you?
Thank you.
So,
Yes, thank you.
so Ms. Eminger, it looks like, I'll tell you what, let me put it this way. I'm only thinking because I was once new on the commission. So we do have some new commission members here. And there's clearly I'm sure it looks like there's your statement and Attorney Marcus's statement looks like it's so far apart, but yet it seems like it's maybe only one sentence away. I know this is very complicated and very deep, so I would ask you to tell us again what you want to rebut on this matter and to reinforce your opinion on that staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's certainly not going to be one sentence. I don't think I can sum it in one sentence. So I have a whole page of notes that I'm going to go through, and I apologize if it's a little disjointed. But first, Lee Farm is not retail. It's office. But it is zoned IL 40. Retail is not permitted in the IL 40. I just want that to be clear. And again, this is not site specific. I know that there's been some discussions about traffic and wetlands and, this is a text amendment. It's not a zone change. It's a text amendment that affects all uses. It would affect all zones in the designated IL 40. So Neil was right when he said the sale and rental of automobiles and trucks is allowed. It is. It's under the special exception zone where Neil couldn't find where it said that. It clearly says, pursuant to section, again, this is my first sentence in my comment, pursuant to section 6A 2B 13, the sale or rental of automobiles and trucks. That is a special exception use. So Neil is correct. It is allowed. The different components he's talking about, again, those are all allowed on their own. The rental and leasing of cars is allowed. So I just want to be clear. He said this, they just can't comply. That's what Neil said on the record. So again, the use is already allowed, and that's what the zoning commission approved. Again, specifically, sale, and this is how it came in, and this is how it was approved by the zoning commission. Sale or rental of automobiles and trucks. Special exception use already. So again, not everything is allowed, as Neil said. Everything he wants to do is allowed. That's not true as a permitted use. You can't rent. That's a special exception use. And that's, again, part of the use category, sale and rental of automobiles and trucks. And there's been a lot of discussion about rental and lease and sales. It's in the same use category. We treat it the same. When we brought this use over to the special exception use from the CG and the CA, we specifically, when we say we, Sharon and Attorney Robin Kahn worked together to make sure that that was consistent. Again, when I talk about the zoning scheme, that's what I'm talking about. You're consistent in how you're treating these uses, and it comes over as the sale and rental. So, and again, discussions, it's office. Well, it's not office. Again, and I said this before, the primary use is the rental or leasing of cars or trucks. That's the category of uses. It's not office. And if you were to open an office and do that, we would say that that's in violation of the zoning regulations. If you were to open a car facility for the storage of cars, but then you were renting them, we would still say you're still violating the zoning regulations. It's not allowed unless you're coming in under 6A 2B13 and comply with those additional requirements. So one of the other issues, and again, this is the language that Neil has brought before the commission: business or professional office for the delivery of rental and or leased automobiles and trucks. So, and this is all about interpretation. And when we look at these things and we speak about unintended consequences and we look at what's next, well, this is what we're told, but that's not what happens a year down the road, 6 months down the road, when someone else comes in and says, oh, but it says I can do it. But that's not what we wanted. Well, it doesn't matter. It's what's written. And when you say leasing, you can have a license to lease cars. You need a dealership license to do that. So it's not a big stretch to say, well, if you're allowing leasing, then again, at the same time, oh, I can have a dealership. I can do new and used cars. Again, that's an interpretation question that could, and I honestly think will be challenged. Again, it speaks to the ambiguity and having these duplicate uses. So if the zoning commission wants to do, if they think rental is completely separate than retail, and again, same use category, it's a physical transaction. You can get the rental, you go in, pay for it, you take it out. You're renting it, you bring it back. Same as retail. If that wants to be removed, then that's a separate action by the zoning commission to consider. We've treated them consistently, and we carried that over from the CG and the CA to the IL 40. Again, with those additional restrictions, as well as a special exception process. In this case, it's permitted by right. There'd be no traffic study. There'd be no, again, it would need likely EIC, but it wouldn't have that additional scrutiny that you would get under a special exception. So with that, I think I'll close with that. Thank you.
Well, let me ask you, what is it that if 6A 2B13 allows for the sale or rental of automobiles and trucks as a special exception, what is it that they're claiming they can't comply with?
Well, based off of the, and I of course don't have that section in front of me, there are additional restrictions. Specifically, you have acreage requirements.
Okay.
You have to have lot frontage on the same street and within 1,000 feet of a lot with an existing facility that maintains a licensed new car delership. Again, minimum lot size. I'm sorry, what?
That's the one we can't beat. This site just is nowhere near a licensed dealer, period. So that's it.
Again, the use the use itself is allowed. You just can't comply with it.
That's right.
So that I guess that's my point. And again, it has to be on a collector or arterial, and there's a whole slew of other uses or restrictions that I can't think of off the top of my head. But those are the big 3 to 4.
So, in your opinion, here's a question. I find it silly, yet I find it interesting. Can they do everything they want to do and have an office up the road in the CG20 zone and just direct the transactions in another facility?
I spoke to the zoning enforcement officer. No, again, the primary use is the rental and or leasing of cars. That's the primary use. The office is secondary in this scenario. And you add that leasing term, again, you can go to any car dealership and lease a car. Am I going to lease a car from an Enterprise or a Hertz? No, I'm going to go to a dealership. So that just by having that language, again, it's ambiguous. And now you've opened that door to saying, oh, well, you said I can lease cars. Well, to lease a car, I have to have a dealership. So now I have a dealership.
It's almost
Permitted
like,
by right in the IL 40 zone.
yeah, and since this isn't site specific, we've talked a lot about, hey, what's going to happen on this property would be nice to know a little bit more, but what we'll never know is what could happen on anything else in the IL 40 zone that isn't before us tonight.
Correct.
Commission members, any questions of Ms. Eminger at this time? Commission members?
Yeah, I have a question.
Commissioner Nejane.
Yes, Jennifer, Commerce Park, what zone is that? And forgive me, I'm not up on all the zoning areas, but isn't that
I believe
industrial
that's
zone?
IG. It's IG 80.
Okay, and IG 80 permits retail use?
No, IG 80 is our heavy industrial zone. So a lot of those, again, it's some of the same uses in the IL 40, but the IG 80 is, the storage of
there's a lot of
concrete.
retail use going on in the IG 80 zone.
I'm not sure I
equipment. They're leasing equipment, tractors, excavators. They've got, you can go buy water, buy signs. It seems like a lot of retail in there.
But that, again, those are uses that are not retail in nature. If you're going to Culligan, again, they're a distribution point. And I can't speak to how Culligan,
but it sounds like the same. It sounds like the same operation as what Neil is proposing. In other words, Decker is in there leasing equipment in that zone. So it sounds, the whole zoning thing sounds, very clouded, and I understand your point and what you're saying makes sense, but when you look over around the city, I think it supports Neil's argument.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
So I can't quite remember the use that was approved for Decker, but it did have a special exception use. So again, we've always considered rental and sales. It's an automotive use category, and we've kept it together. So when we brought it from the CA and the CG, again, rental, if you had a rent to own or, renting cars, that requires a transaction that, we have deemed retail. We have consistently deemed that retail. That hasn't changed. So, if the zoning commission wanted it separated, then in 2021 or in 2020, it would have been just the sale of cars, but it came over as the sale and rental of cars. So if it's the wish of the zoning commission to take rental out of there, then that's a separate discussion. By adding the proposed use, you're adding additional ambiguity, and there's a different way to handle it. And that's a discussion with the zoning commission if that's what you want to do.
Well, I think that's what Neil needs to decide.
Well, I think from a broader perspective, when in my staff report, I spoke of, what the zoning commission considered when sale and rentals came over from the CGCA to the IL, it was with, it was with, they were not nervous. It was just, it was a new use. So, allowing it on that restricted basis, again, bringing over the use category, being consistent with how that category is treated in other zones. If the zoning commission had wanted it differently, then I have to think that the zoning commission would have voted differently, but they agreed at the time that the sale and rental of automobiles and trucks was an appropriate use. Again, that category. So changing that to the use proposed, it doesn't clear the ambiguity. It muddies the water from the department's perspective.
Understood.
Thank you. Commissioner Nejam, you good?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commission members, anything else of Ms. Eminger? Commission members, anything else of Ms. Eminger? At this point, I would look to see if someone wants to make a motion to continue the public hearing, to close the public hearing, or to close the public hearing with specific information to be requested and discussed at the next meeting. Commission members, what's your pleasure? Anyone? Commissioner
Chairman?
Jowdy, hand raised. Commissioner Jowdy?
He's muted.
Are you, Commissioner Jowdy, you're muted. Did you want to speak? I don't know if his hand was up.
I think you wanted to go get a beer.
Commissioner.
Okay, you there?
Yeah, we lost your video, but we got you on audio. Go ahead, Commissioner Jowdy. I didn't know if you wanted to speak or not.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to keep the public hearing open and not be specific on anything, just a regular open public hearing for all the issues that we hammered this evening.
Okay, so commission members, we have a motion by Commissioner Jowdy to keep the public hearing open. What that would mean would be it's not restricted to any discussion. Attorney Marcus can come back, make another presentation, and bring any documents that maybe his client wants to respond to after listening to tonight's meeting. So it's open again for another round, and I would look to see if there's a second to that.
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner Nejam. Commission members, now's your chance to discuss the motion. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Commissioner O'Neill? You're good.
Why it has to be so hard to unmute sometimes.
Yes, I know.
I'm just not sure what that accomplishes. I'm not sure if what Attorney Marcus is doing and what planning Jennifer Eminger, like, it doesn't seem like they're meeting in the middle or coming to a, like, there's not like a, I don't know that there needs to be a compromise, but it doesn't seem like they're accomplishing the same goal. So I'm not sure by continuing it and another presentation or more information, like, I don't really care about the building there. I don't care about that. I want to know that, like, should this be a special exception? Is that a better thing than what Attorney Marcus is planning? I'm just not sure what it accomplishes and how to get to the end where people can vote one way or the other.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Perhaps commission members may never see a negotiation between the petitioner and the staff, but there might be some answers that they would see upcoming that they haven't seen yet that might help them to decide which side they want to go on. But that's a good argument, good point. Anything else? Any other discussion, commission members? Any other discussion on the motion? So any commission members that vote yes, they would be voting to continue the public hearing. No would be against the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Who was that? Commissioner Botello is opposed.
Yes.
Any other opposition?
I'm opposed.
Who is that? Nazario? So any other opposition?
Is there abstaining?
You could.
Yeah.
So you have an abstention. So it looks like we have 6.
Simone.
Simone, what are you doing?
No.
No. So we have 5 3, and 1. Is that correct? Or I'll do a roll call. We're gonna do a roll call. A yes is yes. Commissioner Jowdy.
Yes.
Who made that second last time?
Me,
Commissioner
Yes.
Easton.
yes.
Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Bennett, to close the public hearing,
Yes,
yes or
yes.
no? Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Botello.
No.
Commissioner Simone.
No.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Commissioner Nazario.
No.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Abstain.
Abstain. I will vote yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 1. 5, 3, 1.
Correct.
This public hearing will be continued to June 25th.
So you're gonna force Jennifer and me to talk to each other. Poor
Yes.
Jennifer.
Figure something out.
They don't know what they're doing to you, Jennifer. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, commission members. Let me get everything back in order here. Okay, I'll figure that out later. There is no continuation of any public hearing. There is, however, under old business for discussion and possible action, a petition of Robert D. Oliveria, Joes Hill Road, B13004 for change of zone from RA 80 and RA 40 to RA 40. Public hearing was open on June 11, 2024. The public hearing was closed on June 11, 2024. Commission members, what's your pleasure on this petition? I'm sorry, I'm going through paperwork. Commissioner Botello, hand up.
I would, yes, Chairman, I would make a motion to approve this application. And could you put the verbiage in that we need to accept it as being part of the minutes?
Sure. There's a motion by Commissioner Botello, and I could add some reasons to that to see if he agrees to that. That the zoning commission finds that it's considered a plan of conservation and conservation development as required by state statutes, and the rezoning meets the zone change criteria for the requirements of the zoning regulations. Rezoning should result in the use of land. It's the best interest of the city and will not detrimentally impact health, safety, and welfare of the public. And that pretty much sums up the staff reports, positive feelings, and the planning commission. How does that sound to you, motion maker, Commissioner Botello?
That's fine, thank you.
The motion maker will attach those reasons to his motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Commissioner Nejam. Any discussion, commission members? Any discussion? Not hearing any. I think this is fair and square for the owner of the property. I think the staff report was well done. Planning commission went along with it as well. Thank you for that staff report. Any other comments? A yes is yes, a no is no. We're gonna take this by roll. Commissioner Botello,
Yes.
Commissioner Nazario,
Yes.
Commissioner Nejam,
yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
Commissioner Jowdy,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Simone,
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I will make it unanimous. 9-0. Best wishes. Good presentation, Mr. Ushak. I think you're still there. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here. Good night.
Great. Good night. There is no new business. There is no correspondence. For reference only is the petition, Attorney Marcus for the poultry as household pets. That public hearing has been rescheduled. It has been changed rescheduled to July 23rd, 2024. Commission members, are there any other matters? Are there any other matters? Are there any other matters? Ms. Eminger, Ms. Reed, did I forget anything? I'm good?
No, you did, Mr. Chairman.
No other matters? Is there a motion to adjourn by anyone? Commissioner Bennett makes a motion to adjourn at 9:09. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Botello. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? This public hearing is closed. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
you.
Thank
Thank you. Good night to all.
Yeah, we'll see you on the 25th.